Hello, everyone, and welcome to Art for Art's Sake this lovely Thursday afternoon. It's a special day for Art for Art's Sake because you're actually going to meet my mom. Hey, check that out. So Art for Art's Sake is a new virtual program from the St. Lawrence County Arts Council where we're showcasing different artists from around the area and letting them talk about their work that they do and things that inspire them and all sorts of things like that. It's been a really fun way to get to know some of our artists or get to hear what they have to say about what they do. So that's been really fun, and it's been great to hear from the community. If you have any questions or comments during the video, feel free to put a comment right in the comment section, and I'll be looking and seeing if I can ask any questions of our artist during the show. We invite all artists of all disciplines to participate in this show. We have lots of openings in the coming weeks, so just email me or you can message me on Facebook here and we'll find a time for you to share what you do, a concert or a demonstration or a discussion of some sort. Whatever it is, we'd love to see you. So reach out to me and we'll get you sorted out. I lastly want to thank all of our previous sponsors, everyone who's supported the Arts Council over the last couple months. While we've actually, my coworker just said it's been 11 weeks. Wow. Well, but it's been quite a time, and I want to thank everybody who has supported us or renewed their membership or whatever it has been. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. If you haven't done so yet, or if you just feel really awesome right now, go right to slcartscouncil.org/give and make a donation today. You can also go to slcartscouncil.org/join and become a member or renew your membership. So that's cool too. Anyway, as I said, I gave you a little bit of a precursor there. You're going to meet my mom today, Fran Moore. She is a master knitter and she's also started spinning, so she's going to talk to you about all that stuff and kind of her motivations for things. Let me unmute you and you can, oh wait, no, it didn't happen. Okay, there she is. Nope, she's not. Oh my God, technical difficulties. I don't know why. All right, you might have to unmute yourself. I don't know why it's not working. Sorry. There she is.
I think I've unmuted myself. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
All right, brilliant.
Awesome. So
well,
how's
thank
it going?
you, Maggie.
Thanks, Ma.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's really a pleasure to be on, talk to you all. As Maggie mentioned, I am something of a knitter. I love to knit. I would say it's actually one of my core skills. One of the things that I've done since I was probably about 5 or 6 years old is when I first learned to knit. And one of the things I wanted to talk about today is really an extension of the process that I've, really started to appreciate over the last couple of years, which is the whole idea of taking from sheep to shawl and all the processes in between. So knitting was the one that I really had down because I've been doing it for the best part of well over 50 years. And now I am doing spinning. So what's spinning all about, and why would you even get involved in it? It's such an interesting process, but the way I got started was actually from my sister-in-law who has a farm in Vermont. And while visiting her one day, she had sheared her sheep and she had a whole bunch, like a whole garbage bag full of just bits, offcuts from the shearing. And so I said, well, what are you going to do with that? She says, oh, we're going to wash it and we'll spin it and card it and we'll do all that stuff. And I said, oh yeah, when are you going to do that? And there was sort of not too much definite ideas about when that was going to happen. So I said, look, I'll take that off your hands. So she gave me this garbage bag full. I took it to Battenkill Fibers, which is a little place in Greenwich that just does the washing and the processing of the raw yarn. So I got all of this stuff. It actually weighed 24 pounds when I took it in. And about 3 months later, I got back 15 pounds of this fluff. So as you can see, it's this unbleached white fiber. And you say, well, that's great. That's wonderful. Well, what are you going to do with that? So I said, well, I'm going to have to learn how to spin. So I found this guy in Altamont, New York, who taught me how to spin. He rented me a spinning wheel for a couple of months. And after I'd had it for about a month, I said, oh, I'm into this. I can do this. I'm going to get my own. So I ordered a spinning wheel, but it didn't come for another 3 months. This was last year, by the way. So I've been doing this now for about 15 months. And I would say I've plowed my way through about half of that 15 pounds of fluff that I got from the American Romney sheep from Vermont. So this is this. This is my spinning wheel. It came from the Netherlands. And the reason I got this small wheel is because it's really completely portable. It folds up flat and it fits in a backpack, so I can bring it with me wherever I go. And I do go, I've been to actually some county fairs where they do demonstrations of spinning and things like that. And I've also submitted some of my little efforts in their contests that they always have. And that was obviously for novice spinners, as I was last year. And so I do this, I try to be fairly, I don't know, process-minded about this, because I want to really understand what it's going to take to get this done. So I measure it out into 50-gram packages, because I know that 50 grams of fluff spins up to what fits on this bobbin. And then when you've done two what's called singles, you ply them together. Here's one that I did already. And you ply them together to form one of these balls of yarn. So this is what I've been making over the last, well, since about this time last year, actually, is when I started working on this. So the spinning process itself is really, it's one of those things that's kind of easy to get into, but very hard to master. And so, like I say, I've only been doing this for just over a year now, and I'm getting it down. But back in November, I broke my wrist. And so, honestly, it really set me back a couple of months in the healing, because I couldn't do it. I couldn't even make a fist. I was like this. My hand was like, really, I couldn't even do anything with it. So it's been a bit of a climb since January to get back into my spinning. But as soon as I got the cast off, which was really December 31st, I started in doing my knitting again. And I got a number of things done. So the first thing I did in January was started on the projects that I had planned to do for Christmas that didn't get done. And I made a couple of pairs of elfin slippers and a couple of shawls. And actually now it's really been a wonderful thing since we've been in lockdown, because I've managed to do several garments, and I pretty much get one done every couple of weeks. So I made this from my spun yarn, which is an Aran sweater. And I made this one, this cardigan, which is the Aran wool that's plied with a commercial fingering weight yarn. So it reads pink, and that's really what it is, because it's the pink mixed in with the white. I've made numerous shawls. This one was actually one of the first ones that I made last year when I was plying really, really thick, and you can see how much thicker this is and heavier. It's a really heavy piece. And then when I was doing plying I really over plied this, and it's so stretchy. It's almost like it's elastic, and it's exactly the same fiber, but it's just plied wrong. So as I'm learning more in this whole process, that's really where some of my creativity comes in, is, okay, I can just take this plain stuff, or I can mix it with something else. And then this is the resulting ball of yarn that we have here.
Show us that ball of yarn a little closer.
Oh, this one? Okay, so, oops. Well, that was nearly a disaster. Sorry about that. Okay, so this is the plied, can you see that clearly? It's actually the white yarn from the Vermont Romney sheep, and it's plied with a very fine pink wool. So it comes out, and it's and that pink sweater, the cardigan, is the result of this, and this is what was left over. So I don't know what I'm going to do with that. That's why I have such a stash, because every time I make something and I have something left over, I don't know what to do with it. And that's again where the creativity comes in, and that's why I like to do things like these colored knits, because these take lots of different colors. So I can take all of the stuff that's in my stash and I can do this. And this is also where my creativity comes in. This is a design that I've done before, but there is not another one like this, because I used a different ribbing in the cuffs and the collar with the black and the red together, and then the gold is in, and then the red is throughout, to make a really pretty design. So this is what's creative in knitting, is when you do things that are not in the pattern. Some things are just straight. Some things I just take a pattern and I just work it, and that's this. This is actually acrylic fiber. So I'm kind of off the spinning now. I'm not really talking about that, but this is acrylic. So it doesn't have to be wool or cotton. Acrylic can be just as effective when it comes to knitting in designs. I love this design. It's so gorgeous. Of course, none of these designs are designs that I have created, but they are ones that I have worked. This is one of my personal favorites. This is also Icelandic wool. I get it mailed in from Iceland because it is the softest and lightest weight. And it comes in these absolutely gorgeous colors. So I've made 3 of these from 2 years ago.
And Sherry has one of, my mother-in-law has.
Yes, she does.
She absolutely loves.
Well, Sherry has the one that's the same colorways as this, except hers has a green background and this has a brown background, but it has exactly the same colors in it. And again, that's the creativity, is using the colors in different combinations, and that's what gives you a different and a unique look to the garment. So this is actually what I'm working on right now. This is back to the spun Vermont Romney. It is going to be a wedding gift, and it's going to be 6 feet wide, and however long I have yarn for to make it the length. Hopefully I will get to 60 inches. So if I can do 72 by 60, I think that will be a pretty decent sized blanket. But here's the thing. This is for a couple, both of whom are being married for the 2nd time. And, you know, and I looked at it and I said, oh man, you know, this yarn, it's been spun at different times. So even though it's from the same batch of fluff, it's thick and thin, and it's, you know, the colors look slightly different because when you ply it tighter, it's darker. Who knew? And now, but then I thought, you know, as you look at this, it's got the traditional XOXO wedding knot, and some other knots. This is what a marriage is about, isn't it? It's not just perfection, but when you take it together, the whole thing is warm and comforting, and you can see its history. So it's a wonderful thing. So this is what I'm knitting right now. Right now, I've been working on this for about a couple of weeks, and I finish about 2 inches a day, and they're getting married in July, so I think I'll be okay. But the problem is that I don't actually have enough spun yarn, so I have to keep stopping every so often to spin some more yarn so that I will have enough to finish it. So that's part of the process, but it will eventually be an integrated whole of a design. And now I'm being greeted by my granddaughter, Charlotte. Hi, Charlotte.
We have a very excited small person here.
And yeah, so I'm excited about this project because it is, you know, just going through it and what it means and how it's turning out is actually very satisfying. The thing about knitting, and frankly, I think any skill that you have, is that as you work through things and you focus on what you're doing, you reach a certain Zen level of meditation that creates a tremendous amount of joy. I find that I just can't wait to get back to it. You know, it's sort of like, oh, wow. Oh, we're in lockdown. Oh, great, we're in lockdown. I can work on my projects. So, you know, it in many ways has been something of a joy for me to be able to work on this project and other projects, because, you know, I can't always work on the same project. I have to stop to finish something else or do something else. So that's been very good. What else can I tell you? Yeah.
Actually, before you go on to the thing you're going to go on to, this very exciting little lady, you started teaching her a little bit. So
yes, I did.
You sort of taught me when I was a kid, but didn't happen much. Though Katie's good at it, my older sister. Anyway, but how did you get started with knitting?
Well, that's a great question. Actually, I learned from my grandmother. My grandmother taught me to knit. I was about 5, 6 years old. I saw her doing it, and I said, "Oh, I'd like to do that. I think that would be fun." And all of a lot of my aunts and my mother used to do some knitting as well. My mother wasn't that keen, but she knew how to knit. But it was my grandmother that was really into it and that took me on to teach me to do it. And then I was kind of like, once I got started with the basic stuff, and remember, Charlotte, there's only 2 stitches, right? What are the stitches?
What are the stitches? You're on air.
Plain and purl. Right? Plain and purl. There's only 2 basic stitches, but it's, again, to do with the combinations that you use them. When you mix and match them, that's when you get the patterns and you get the designs in there. Yeah. So another thing that I have worked on lately that I've found to be quite interesting is the taking of a photograph, running it through a computer program, and creating a knit chart to make a picture. So the one that I did, which actually you'll probably see hanging in TAUNY at some time soon, is the TAUNY logo. And this is a barn quilt that hangs on the back door of TAUNY in Canton. So I'd made a picture of it and then converted it into this grid and knitted it up into the picture. And it's a 2x2 fiber barn quilt. And what I'm probably going to do with this to take it to the next level is render it into a pattern with a knitting kit so that people could make their own. And I will probably work with a local yarn store to get this done. I mean, actually figuring out how much of the colors you need in a relatively simple design like this, because it's only basically 4 colors, it wouldn't be that difficult. It's just arithmetic, isn't it? So that's my creative side of doing things. Again, I feel like it's a little bit derivative what I do, but it's how I do it that's maybe a little bit different from how other people are doing it. But yeah, so that's what I'm up to. Let's see, what else can I tell you about? I just wanted to step back and tell you about spinning and how, yeah, let me do this. When I first started to spin, one thing that you need to do when you start any knitting project is you need to do a tension square. You need to knit up part of the fabric on a certain size of knitting needle and figure out how it's going to be so you know how much fiber you're going to need. This is the first tension square that I made from the first fiber that I spun. And as you can see, it's incredibly thick and thin. You know, normally a tension square will be actually quite square, but this is so uneven, and it's also got different fibers in it as well. But that's another thing that I found with spinning, which is that the differences of fibers that you can use and how you mix them together is what creates different types of yarns and fibers. All right.
I'm gonna steal the show for a moment. This is Tristan. It's very hot, so I don't want him to be in it for too long. But my mom knit this coat for him, and it's a custom fit. Look at the booty. It goes right over his booty.
Hi, Nana.
Hi.
Tristan in his cute little coat that she knit out of like extra yarn that she just had lying around.
Yep, that's right.
Hi, Tristan. Okay.
Hi, Tristan.
Hi, Nana.
Hi, Charlotte. Yeah, so let me talk about some of the other stuff. So this was actually the first hat that I knit from my spun yarn. And there's 2 different types of yarn. This was before I got the American Romney. This is some no-name, unknown origin yarn that I had in here. And that was the first one I made. And then I made this one, which is a combination of different yarns and a different type of stitch as well. I actually like that one. They feel very stretchy. And this one won a prize at the Washington County Fair. And this is a child's hat. It's very nice and stretchy though. So it's very nice. So those are the kinds of things that I've made. I showed you some of the stuff, but those are the things that I've made since I started spinning a year ago. As I said before, I'm very excited to finish this blanket, even though I'm like, oh man, I hope they actually get married, or I hope they stay married, or I don't even know. But hopefully, if they have the comfort of a blanket, they'll understand that you know, a lot goes into it. That's the other thing about a marriage, right?
Love. You're sharing love with them through
exactly. And anytime you make, for me, the making of stuff is part of the creativity. Is it's really a giving of myself when I make stuff like this. So yeah.
We have a quick question from the audience.
Yeah.
Do you belong to any fiber arts groups, or maybe you could talk about some of the organizations that you're involved in?
That's a great question. And actually, yes, I do. I belong to the Rock Day Spinners, which is an organization that meets every month, except it hasn't met for a few months now, of course, and gets together. And what we usually do is everybody brings their spinning wheels and they bring a project that they're working on and talk about the project that they're working on. So it's kind of neat. And they have a newsletter which they send out with all the pictures of things that people have done. And I guess anybody can join that. I haven't actually been a part of a knitting group as such, although I know that they go on. I've made prayer shawls for the church, but I haven't actually sat with the people in that knitting group because they meet on the same night at the same time as another meeting that I have. So I have not joined that group. But yeah, there are plenty of knitting groups to be found. I think that if you ever Googled them in your area, you would find that there are knitting groups and spinning groups that get together.
I know that the Potsdam Public Library has a Pearl Jam knitting group.
Ooh, really?
Yeah, Sarah
with Sarah?
Yeah,
that's what I thought. Yes, absolutely. And I've certainly talked to her. And of course, anytime I tell people that I'm a knitter, they'll say, oh, I'm a knitter too, or my mother was, you know, or something like that. So there are plenty around. And I just hope and pray that as we teach the next generation, they can take these skills on to the next level. Just in terms of knitting, like I say, I've been knitting for a very long time, since I was a child, and I have a large collection of knitting paraphernalia, that, you know, tools that I use. And I almost exclusively work on circular needles, because working on just straight needles would make something like this impossible to do. And I also hate sewing seams. So that's why anything I make, like these sweaters, are all completely made in the round, so that I don't have to sew seams, because I can't stand that lump that you have. And so even on shoulders, like on this one, it's not sewn, it's grafted where there's a seam. So like under the arm here, it's just a grafted thing. So it doesn't even look like it's stitched. Well, it isn't stitched, it's grafted. So I'm very much into those kinds of techniques. The other thing that I've found about knitting is that every time I find a new pattern book or something like that, I learn a new technique, which is really awesome. You know, you'd say, oh, you can't teach an old dog new tricks, but actually you can learn new stuff. And the more you know, the more you can absorb and learn. And the latest thing that I learned over the last year or so, and, you know, people that are knitters are probably saying, no, oh, you know, you didn't know how to do that. I learned how to do the very stretchy cast on technique. And I also learned how to do the stretchy cast off technique, which is a real revelation for me. So I'm very excited about that.
So we have another question from the audience, and I want you to tell the story that belongs to this, and I don't even need to ask to tell you what it is. Where do you purchase a large circular needle like the one you were holding?
Great, that is a great question too. These ones, this one is 60 inches. 60 inches? Yeah, it's 60 inches long, and it's a size 10. And you cannot get them in the regular stores. You'll never find it in Walmart or even Michael's or Joann's or any of those. I got it online. I just go to Amazon and I get my very specialized needles online. The needles, so my collection, I mean, I have everything from these very big, this is, oh wait, what is this one? This is 19 millimeters. in diameter. This is used for very big, bulky knits, and they knit up in about 3 seconds flat because, well, so big. So they're with a very bulky fiber. You can make scarves and, you know, ponchos, things like that. I wouldn't make a sweater of it. I don't think it would really work well. And then my actual personal favorite are these little toothpicks. These are little bamboo. They're like, it's like working on toothpicks. They're 2.75 millimeters. And I use them for making socks and very fine gloves. So most of these needles, especially these outsize ones, I get online.
So the story you have to tell is about Auntie Anne's pattern.
What? Oh, the
90s.
Oh, the 90s pattern. Oh my goodness. Yeah, so my sister-in-law, the one who now had the sheep in Vermont, she wanted me to make this pattern for her. That is this, you know, I could get it. Let me find it. It's, let me see if I can describe it. It's like a big butterfly, and it's got this like bat wing sleeves. So it's like a, well, she looks like a great big bat when she's wearing it. But the thing is that at the time that I got this pattern, I mean, it was about 20 or 30 years ago, I didn't have circular needles and I wasn't even really using them. So I had bought a whole bunch of just double pointed needles, and I was going across this thing, and of course it's really wide. So it's going to be 6 feet across. That's how big it was. And it was made, parts of it were made in the round. So I ended up getting the circular needle, and it was in a size like 3 millimeters or something. So it was very fine work.
But that project was in your closet for about 20.
Yes, it was. So what happened was, because it was so complicated and so difficult to try and make it using a series of, you know, double pointed needles and sort of working across, and all the stitches would fall off, and then I'd have to go back. Oh, it was so frustrating. So when I found out that I could get that online, it was probably in the late 90s or something like that. I found out I could find it online and that I could order it. It changed my life. I
think that was like in the late 2010s, because I feel like you made that for her like very recently, finally.
Oh, I don't think it was that recent, but okay. I did finish. Maybe it was in the 2000s, but I know I started it in the early 90s. That's for sure, and it just was a very, very long time coming. This is my pattern book that I have here. So what I do is when I have a book of patterns and I'm going to work on one of them, I photocopy it out of the book, and then I put it into plastic sheet. And this is the design that I made, and it had a serious pattern on it as well, which made it even more complicated. So yeah, that was the 20-year project. And if you know me, I'm really not into the, you know, kind of put it away and don't come back to it for 20 years. I'm really not into that. I really like to work on a project and finish it, and then I'll go to the next one. But if I hit a stumbling block like that, I do find that I have to put it away, and then, you know, it might get lost forever. So right now I have a massive stash of all kinds of different yarns, but one can never have too many yarns. This is the truth. And actually Maggie has been one of the people that's gotten me various, I guess, job lot ends of yarn that you found in different places, and got very cheap, and so they've just made it into my stash, and some of them are up there.
Good.
And I have to just work on, and then I have to find a pattern and say, okay, what yarn do I have? Or sometimes I look at my stash and I say, what can I make from this fiber? And so it depends.
Where is your favorite place to find patterns?
I find them all over the place. I do actually subscribe to several different websites. So of course, Ravelry is probably one of the best, that has a lot of different, it has both the patterns that people publish, and it also has the yarns that have been tested for that pattern. And of course, I almost never buy the yarn that's been tested for the pattern. So that's why it's so important to do a test square of the pattern itself with the yarn that you're going to be using, because otherwise you end up with something that's just way off the mark. And that's why I was able to make that dress. So this dress I'm wearing is just like the dress that I made for you, except this is made from a thick cotton. Okay.
Yeah.
And yours is made.
I'm not wearing mine right now.
Yours is made from a very thin boucle kind of fiber. So I get patterns from all over the place. So Ravelry, Love Knitting is another one I use. I sometimes, if I'm in a bookstore or something like that, and I see a magazine that's a knitting magazine, I flip through it and I see a pattern that I like, then I'll get the magazine and then I'll work on the patterns that I like. I have multiple books of Icelandic patterns, and I just love color work. So that's like one of my favorite things to do. So I have made multiples. And then when I find a pattern that I like, of course, as I say before, I will make it maybe in different colorways for different sizes, for different people. I'll adapt it for different sizes if it's not part of the pattern. And of course, it's easy to do that. It's just arithmetic. It's not complicated. So I will do a lot of that. What else?
Awesome.
I do have a lot of old patterns. I mean, things like this. This one's probably from the 70s, but I've made both of those items at different times. I mean, look at that. What guy wears that? That's pretty cool, actually.
Maybe Matt would wear it.
Yeah. I think Katie has this right now, this one that I made. But yeah. Anyway, what else? What else?
I should have brought a list of I should have brought my stash of Nana knits, but they're all upstairs and it's too hot to go do that.
I know it is generally too hot to wear woolens, that's for sure. But that's why I brought a few of them out, just so that you could see the kinds of things that we do.
We have another question from the audience. Have you ever tried using a knitting machine?
Oh, yes, I do actually. Believe it or not, I own a knitting machine. It's just a straight thing. I didn't find it as satisfying because I would have to knit in the flat, which would mean that I'd have to seam it, which would be a problem for me. But I didn't like knitting with the machine as much. Plus, you have to get it out. So I've got this spinning thing, and there's so much paraphernalia that's involved in it. You set it up, but I like to then pack everything away when I'm not using those things anymore.
Well, you know that Dad is the next thing after we get off this call. He's definitely going to take the knitting machine and go give it to somebody.
Very nice. Okay.
I kid.
That's good.
Do you want to do a shameless plug for TAUNY and what you're doing with TAUNY?
Okay. Yeah. So just recently I was elected to the board of TAUNY in Canton, and I am going to be serving as treasurer for the next year or so. just to, I think it was by default that I'm actually serving as treasurer, but that's okay. There are a number of things that I've done for TAUNY so far, apart from the TAUNY logo rendered in fiber that I mentioned before. I have actually entered in their knitting contest that they had last year, and I entered one of the dresses that I made for Charlotte, actually. And so I do that. And the other thing that I've done with TAUNY is the English tea. So I've run a couple of the English teas for them, which involves making scones and cakes and bringing different types of teas. To change it up, last time we did one, we did a tea tasting contest. So the tea tasting was people coming up and tasting from 5 different types of teas and seeing if, I didn't have people identify what the tea was. I thought that would be too difficult, but to just rate them in terms of whether they like them or not. So yeah, I think that when we get back on board with TAUNY, lately, obviously we haven't been open, but we have been sending out posts 3 times a week about different things that are going on from our TAUNY heritage winners, and also just from people in the community and what they're doing. There's a tremendous amount of activity. One of the most popular things in TAUNY has been the barn quilts. I think people are aware of that too, right?
Yeah, and I'm talking to Ruth McWilliams and Jill about doing some kind of presentation about the TAUNY the SLC barn quilt trails. That's actually on our website because we are a project partner for that. So if you want to learn more about barn quilts, you can check out TAUNY's website. And if you want to find out where all of the barn quilts are in St. Lawrence County, you can actually go to slcartscouncil.org/barn quilts, I think it is, but it's also on our main page. So you can go check that out and actually take a little asynchronous tour of barn quilts throughout the county.
Very good. Yeah.
Yeah, awesome.
So yeah, go visit TAUNY. The store is open online, and very soon, you know, it's been 11 weeks already. Who knew? I mean, it just goes in a flash, doesn't it?
That it does.
But we'll be open soon enough, and looking forward to seeing everybody.
Awesome.
Any other questions from anyone at this point?
I think this one wants to chat with you about.
Well,
thank you so much for being here, everyone. This has been Art for Art's Sake episode 39 with Fran Moore. I hope you have a great day, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Bye, everyone.